Some of us can't help it if we're sexy. Some of us can't help if we're seductive. Sometimes that's what the art is supposed to be.
Yeah.
But it's the art of storytelling. What is it that you're trying to portray, right? It's so much more than that.
Hello, and welcome back to another amazing episode of Denhta. For any new listeners outside or new to the podcast, Denhta in my Cascadene language means hello, how are you? Which makes sense because it's a greeting, because I always get to talk to amazing Indigenous individuals. And I'm quite excited to introduce today's customer. But before we get started, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoy. But right now we have the fantastic Nenookaasi. Hi. Can you give us a little hello of who you are?
Hello. My name is Nenookaasi. I was born and pretty much raised in Toronto. I am Afro-Indigenous, a Jamaican, Anishinaabe, Ukrainian descent. I'm a mother of a 24-year-old burlesque performer, creative arts performer, medicine worker, lover of life.
Yeah. You do have a lot of love to give. Like this is the second time you see you. The first time I didn't have a lot of time to chat with you, but this time I got to see quite a bit of you at the conference we're at.
Yeah.
And you just exude like compassion and love and joy, and it's infectious.
Oh.
I'm not a big hugger, but I just feel like I want to hug you all the time.
I love a good hug.
You're good at it.
I need hugs. Like, I want to feel you. I want to embrace you. If I'm taking time to hold you, I want to feel you. I want to remember this moment. Like, we got 6 seconds to for our spirits to connect. I don't want those things to be phony. So
hold you in there, and it's nice.
Like that heart, it feels good. Maybe it's part of the mom in me of nurturing, but also needing to be nurtured.
A little bit of both.
That's you.
All right, I do want to talk about all your performance and all the medicines that you do, but first, I feel like we should discuss your Indigenous name, Nenookaasi.
Yeah.
What about?
So Nenookaasi means hummingbird. Mm-hmm. It was gifted to me by the late Wanda Whitebird, an amazing elder. She really loved going to Jamaica. It was one of her most favorite places. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I'm Jamaican. When I had offered her some sema tobacco to go in that ceremonial process to get my traditional name, she held it for a while. And when we connected again, she had told me that she was in Jamaica and she was in this space, and there was this hummingbird that had came around her, and how much it had reminded me of her, and it took her into this reflective state. Mm-hmm. So she had brought that name back to me. She said, I have 2 names for you. And she said this one, and the representation of what it means just really resonated with me. And I said, no, it's that one. Yeah. And it's also the national bird of Jamaica. Yeah.
And then you just go by Nenookaasi now, right?
It depends on which lifetime I've met you in. Generally, I go by Nenookaasi or Nino for short, not Nemo because I'm not a fish. Those children's.
Nino, yeah.
But my legal name is Tanisha, which was gifted to me by my father when I was little. So it just depends on what time and era that you're in. If I hear you say Tanisha, I know you're from
way back.
Yeah.
That's the same when people use my name, which is Dustin. But I was going to talk on the mic yesterday when we did that little name exercise.
Yeah.
And you said it before me. I did the whole exercise and I looked at it and I was like, I wrote Dustin.
Yeah.
Instantly that training from years with the cursive.
Yeah.
And I've been going by Ella for so long now that it was just, I had to sit back and be like, huh.
That tripped me out too, because the first thing I did was write Tanisha, because they expressed to do it in cursive. Yeah. And I still write in cursive because I'm from that era. That's just my writing.
Same with me.
And so when I'm writing, that's what I'm doing. Like with Nenookaasi, it's always in cap locks, like it's in full letters. So it just muscle memory.
Yeah, mine was muscle memory because you had to sit there with your class with the 3 lines and the serrated middle one.
Yeah.
Where you had to make sure your calligraphy or cursive was in it.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. And it was just a surreal moment for me because I don't disconnect from my birth name. I don't use it.
It shows up when it needs to.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. It's still my name.
Yeah.
But I think it's fantastic that you go by your Indigenous name. I have an Indigenous name that I don't know why I don't use it enough. It's the Hikia. And the Hikia, yeah. And it means the wanderer. My grandfather, the night or the day I was born, had a dream of me wandering the world.
Right.
And that's what's wild about that is that my grandfather lived in the bush. There's no connection for phones. So the morning that I was born, that night he dreamt of me while he was there and had no idea it was born.
Wow.
And then told me that. So it's a beautiful name for myself.
It is.
And I don't know why I don't say Dihiki all the time.
But you're wandering people's minds and you're wandering places and spaces. There's some representation in your name showing up in your life.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
Like I wandered into here, you wandered into my life. Like,
yeah, exactly. We connected.
We did, we are.
You're the hummingbird to my wandering.
Yeah. The hummingbird, they fly far distances, right? Yeah. They're one of the largest migratory birds in the world, like all the way from the South Americas all the way to the Arctic they travel.
Yeah, and the only bird that can fly backwards and hover. Yeah, they're magical little beings.
That flying backwards represents being able to look back, like to reflect. That hovering is about that analyzing and assessing, which is just...
Do you?
Yeah, that's... Mm-hmm.
That's me.
Maybe.
I was like, I want to talk more about a little bit about your performance as well,
Sure.
because you're a burlesque artist.
Yeah.
And then, are you a multimedia artist as well?
I just recently accepted that I'm an artist. I just express.
Yeah.
I'm ADHD, so like I'm good at a lot of things.
Yeah.
So, so it just comes out that way. Yeah. But yeah, I've accepted that I'm an artist. People are acknowledging me as an artist.
Yeah, and you're fantastic.
Thank you.
I've seen you perform twice now. Both times, loved it.
Thanks.
Do you find, or do you incorporate culture into some of your performances?
There's this one in particular called Afro-Witch. Mm-hmm. In this piece in particular, it talks about the modern witch hunt. Mm-hmm. And that's in regards to social medias, like mob lynchings and DM proposals of like really hard things. But in the beginning of it, I have some African music playing in it, and I do wear some African robe garb. I reminiscent of an African medicine person, a witch or an entity of sorts. Yeah. So I do add that in. I do show up black in all of my stuff because I'm black first. For the past 3 years, we're now absolved. We're moving on to other things individually, but I was part of Indigibabes, which was
follow.
Yeah, we did some amazing things, and it's all Indigenous femme queer folk that were in this collective, and I'm the only black presenting or Afro-Indigenous person in that space. So yeah, like I'm always showing up.
Yeah. There's no choice.
Yeah, there's no choice, right? But I think that I really enjoyed that bit of being unique that way, and just my music is very black. Like it's very R&B. It's very if I'm doing a country dance like I did last night, it's black artists. Yeah. So I'm really
That's good.
Yeah.
I love watching you perform because you move really fluidly. It's just fun because you've seen some clunky burlesque performers before.
I feel pretty clunky.
Even though things were coming off how you wanted last night, you still turned it into the act.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, oh my God, my life's falling apart because my heel fell off because your fringe got stuck in your zipper.
That is every time.
You made it a part of the act, and it was so good.
Thank you.
But I love about your mission about being sex positive.
Yeah.
Because I remember having a conversation with another Indigenous person, and like, why do you have to show your body, things like that? And I was like, that's a very colonial view of yours. So like, because if you look at traditional images, or renderings of images back in the day, like we all bathed together. There was communal bathe days. If the people had their top off, isn't the big deal.
But what is the big deal? What is the big deal? Like we all have very similar parts, and they do their thing. They hold up this being and this person. Does this body that I have allow me to do this role, responsibility, this task? Like why does that, if it's naked or not, why does that matter?
Yeah.
We're born naked.
Yeah.
Free the nips. It's so hot.
Yeah.
It's too much clothing. That's too much laundry. I don't have time for it.
Too much. Like, where did this weird sense of modesty come from?
It's assimilation, genocide,
control.
Colonialism. Exactly.
Yeah, it's so stupid. So I love that message about your performance because you mentioned it a few times over the conference that you were body sex positive.
Yeah, I support that. And I have to give it up to that little 2-year-old that I told you all about last night.
I was going to bring that up later because I talk about your performance all the time just because of the juxtaposition of who was before you.
Yeah. Like just to go quickly about that.
No, talk about it. Let's get fully into it.
Okay, so I had performed for another Two-Spirit talent night. I think it was last year or the year before.
Healing Our Spirit.
Yes. And I was asked to perform burlesque, and I was like, okay, who are going to be the people around? Because I want to be mindful of what I'm selecting, because some of my pieces are very like hard.
Yeah.
They make you think or feel. And I want to be appropriate. And so I chose Little Kim's How Many Licks because this costume that I had is just very cute. It's candy filled.
Very bubblegum, very cotton candy.
Yeah, tutu and rainbowed wig and rhinestone shoes. And I had these lollipops on my apron and everything. It was just really cute. And I thought that was like the most femme thing that I've had, most color positive, because everything is usually black. Yeah. That's See, that's my wardrobe. And so I was like, this will be a really good one. And I'm getting ready to go on stage, and I just see this little kid near the front go, "Princess!" And I felt so mortified because I come from a place and space where, especially in Caribbean culture, we don't want our children to be around certain things. Like, it's seen as unclassy to have like sexualized things around your children. And so I felt like weird about that inside my whole body. But I'm like, I turned myself to the back of the stage so I don't see anybody. I'm like, bitch, just fucking do this thing. Like, don't even worry about it. So I'm getting into my character, and things are coming off, and I'm moving around. I love working a stage. I love working the chairs. I love interacting with people. So I get off the stage and I'm working the ground, and I didn't realize, like, people who sit at the front or at the edge or at a corner, you're going to get something from me.
That's the splash zone.
That's the splash zone. That's the splash zone. I love the splash zone. So then I didn't realize that the same little kid was like in my face, and as I'm recognizing they're there, I'm already bent over. My ass is shaking in their face. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, I'm traumatizing this kid. I don't even see myself from this view. I don't even know what I look like from this view. This poor kid. My ass is bigger than their head. Anyways, I am just doing my own thing. At the end, I realize I don't have a kitten to pick up my stuff. So I'm walking around picking up my stuff. My titties are dangling, my mom boobs. And then I see this little kid come up to me as I'm picking up my stuff. This little kid comes to me and goes, "You did so good," with a $50 freaking bill in their hand. And I'm like, do I take the $50 bill? Do I take it from the kid? So I just took it because first it's money. Give me the money. And then I'm like, I don't want to offend this little kid. And I'm standing all modest, and people are like praising me. And that was the first time I've ever been in that position. Yeah. And I was like, I had spoken to one of the coordinators of the event, and I had asked them, like, was that okay? And they're like, no, we're sex positive here. Like, this is not how we are. I'm from Toronto. There's a totally different system out there compared to here. And I came back and I felt okay about it. Then this cute little kid comes back to me and goes, "You didn't give me a lollipop." Yeah. And I felt so bad. First of all, I subjected this kid to all the things, and I didn't even give the kid a candy. Yeah. So I ran back to the dressing room to get one for them, and they just told me I was so good.
Yeah. Yeah. It was perfect. It was fun. I agree with you with working the crowd is my favorite part, that interaction. But I loved your number specifically because there was such a deep number beforehand.
Yes.
And
it was.
We were talking about this part, like, a show shouldn't be like trauma. It should be like, it should be like highs and lows so we can have a full experience. Otherwise you can get emotionally tired. So your number was in the perfect place.
It's not to everybody.
We were all brought down, and we were brought right back up so quick. And it was
glad
beautiful.
I could be of service.
Yeah, it was lovely. And I remember seeing that little kid come up to you. And I remember, I think they must have had a mic around or something, because it was in the room asking for the lollipop or the sucker.
Oh my goodness.
It was so cute.
It was a beautiful teaching moment. I definitely hold that very dearly. And it really changed the way that I navigate my body, and that really at the end of the day, this little kid is just seeing me in my art form. Yeah. They didn't care about my parts. They weren't sexualizing me. They were just thoroughly enjoying what I was feeling liberated in.
Yeah, it's enjoying the performance. Yeah. And I think that's a lot of things that people need to understand, is that when we're performing, we're not, there's certain performances, we're not there to sexualize, do anything. We're there to have a moment. And sure, like, maybe our movements might be a little bit sexualizing.
But it comes with the art, right? Like, that's part of the art, but it doesn't mean that we're trying to sexualize it. It just comes with the art.
Yeah, exactly. We're not here to sexualize you.
Yeah. It's character, it's performance, and some of us can't help it if we're sexy. Some of us can't help if we're seductive. Sometimes that's what the art is supposed to be. Yeah. But it's the art of storytelling. What is it that you're trying to portray, right? It's so much more than that.
Yeah. And even though that girl was young, she's probably not going to go up and be like, I want to do that. But she's going to see it.
But even if she did.
I mean, she is amazing. But sorry, I got a little talk. What I mean is that her parents being there and having that space to be able to just enjoy is going to mean so much more to them when they're older, because they won't have limitations. Yes. They won't have that moment of that modesty pushed on us when we were younger. I don't know how your parents were, but ours was like, you make sure that everything's behind closed doors. Yeah. Make sure your body's always covered.
Yeah. I love that for that little one.
Yeah, exactly. The possibilities and the openness that she has, and probably is going to feel safe talking to her parents about anything.
My little child heart right now is
just exactly. Like, and like, when I see these moments, I'm like, you know what? You just being a parent doing this, changing the world.
Thank you. Yeah. Thanks for seeing me that way.
Yeah. You're welcome. Now, do I want to see how many licks more? Yes. And I didn't get a sucker.
I'm so sorry. Okay, I'll bring it back at some point.
At some point. Granted, we were sitting way in the back. We weren't in the
I'll
splash
have
zone.
suckers for everybody. I'll be Oprah in this bitch.
Throw in the
you
mug.
get a sucker. You get a sucker. Yes.
Amazing. All right, let's pivot a tiny bit.
Yeah.
Very into Indigenous medicines. And you did a workshop recently talking about all these Indigenous medicines and what it means to you. And you asked the audience to talk about how they see it or how they use it, which I found was so powerful.
Yeah.
Can we talk about your journey from you and into where you are with Indigenous medicines?
Jeez, Lord.
Just throw it right on you.
Just throw it right there. Which era, which circa? No, I would say when I started to heavily get involved in medicines was back in 2020 during the pandemic. I was already working with our Indigenous community members around addictions and mental health, just really supporting what that care can look like within the healthcare system in Ontario. But when the pandemic came, obviously like everything shut down and there wasn't a lot of access to medicines. And it was also during a time when Indigenous people were really nationally, were really going through it and the world was watching in regards to how the government was treating our people, the lands, invasion of lands. The country was getting shut down quite often by our people. I'm so proud of that. But part of what was happening was that the access to medicines, I understand in all the ways that I've walked that people who are more rooted in culture and tradition, whatever that looks like for them, wherever they're from, that they're healthier, that they're more sound people. And just in the work that I did, like medicines were always available. But I remember I was supposed to go on a trip to Jamaica. And obviously I couldn't go, so I took my vacation money and I spent it on creating these medicine bundles within our city and just put a call out if anyone needs anything, let me know, and my friends and I, we will go deliver it. I also didn't want to be locked down. I don't know what that means for people because I really did take advantage of the essential service idea. And so going out and handing out these traditional medicine bundles, I've gotten pulled over quite a few times from like officers because we had like a strict protocol at one point. And it said like I'm handing out traditional medicines to community members and folks always backed off. So I used that as like a form of rebellion to making sure our community had what they needed. Yeah. But the response from that was so many different things. There was elation, people excited. One, they saw another person. And it was hard because like you would have to go to their door and you would have to drop it off and you would have to step back because it was social distancing.
Ring the bell and step back.
Yeah, and I'm wearing PPE, gloves and all that stuff because I didn't even want to contaminate all the things. Even all the people that were setting up these bundles, we were decked out and all this stuff. We smothered ourselves in the rubbing alcohols and whatever. And people would be excited to see us. People would be crying because we want a hug. Some people I would know, they want a hug. Like you mentioned, like that's that good hug that comes from me. And, you know, some people that like run, you know, they run to me and they tackled me anyway because like they needed that contact. Or people messaging like, hey, I haven't touched medicines in such a long time. And my sibling or a family member, or I shared some with somebody. And it was just like the smallest of bits of all the medicines. But people were sharing it and people were requesting and people were like, do you have any for sale? Do you? And I saw this need. And when I tried to get access to the medicines from spaces because I could go out, they were shut down or they weren't offering or they weren't willing to help. And these are like Indigenous centers within our own community. And then also people didn't want to purchase from white folks that were selling stuff online. So there was that big thing. And so I was like, you know what? I put out a call for people to donate money so I can purchase more medicines. And then I started selling them. And people would get like good quality and quantity of medicine. And then we started employing people in community to do this work. People are now able to get out and sit with those medicines. And then that took me to this process of being able to travel from Toronto all the way to BC and harvesting medicines. It became this thing of understanding I didn't want to be confined to a space, understanding that if I did this, then I'd be able to support other people to not be confined, to be around the medicines, for us to still conjure and practice ceremony with each other. It was this thing that became for community by community. Yeah.
That's amazing. I loved being in your workshop because we got to talk about it. I also loved that you just didn't give the medicine, you talked about what it was for, and you had a little sheet for it.
Yeah.
Because I do find a lot of people just be like, oh, we have this, and we burn it. No reason behind it. And
Right.
you went in depth about tobacco, and then everyone around was talking about their individual tribe or nation, how they use it.
Yeah.
Which is so good, because we don't want to pan-Indian anything,
Right.
but there's similarities. But knowing the differences is powerful, knowing that we have that unity in a way.
And then it also came up that not every nation uses tobacco as an offering. Like Mi'kmaq people, they use this type of sage, it's a everlasting pearly sage, which they use in the same way that they would use tobacco. You know, I think it's important as a nation of people that are so diverse, and me being a mixed, diverse person myself, that there needs to be an understanding in what we're doing, the intent in the medicine, that the medicine doesn't just belong to one people, it's used globally. There's different types of it. So I really do enjoy sharing that knowledge to just expand people's minds. And also, I want to be accepted into understanding the information from your people. So when I say your people, your nation.
Yeah.
You use people, those people. But I want to be able to have like healthy conversations respectfully when I meet other people from your nation, and be able to say, oh yeah, I had learned this thing. I want to show that I'm interested in not only holding my own teachings, that maybe there's a little bit of something that I can share, because maybe one of those ideals was with me coming to the different provinces and harvesting medicines from those spaces with knowledge given to me, shared with me, that people that lived back in my city that are from those spaces and can't go to those spaces, that they have a piece of home.
They have access to it.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's so good, because I don't know if you've ever had this point before, but sometimes people get offended if you tell them that you don't use that for that specific thing, or you burn sage somewhere and they said, oh, well, you're burning that wrong. Okay, like I'm from the Yukon, you're from here.
Yeah.
Like I'll listen to you, but it seems weird that you're telling me that I'm doing it wrong.
Yeah, I think I would appreciate if someone said, oh, it's interesting that you use it that way.
Yeah, if worded like that.
Yeah. Can I share how we use ours?
Yeah.
Because I'm sure there's a similarity in there, but also you don't need to push your stuff on me.
We could have like a place of knowledge building where we can learn about each other and how it works, instead of being like, that's wrong.
I would just like to be the person like, hey, I do have this medicine. You can have it. You do. I trust that you're going to use it in the way that you do it.
Yeah, it was good. I love it. If you ever have a chance to see Nenookaasi with her medicines, you should definitely take part.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
Now we're going to jump on something else, because you talked about this quite a bit yesterday when you talked about your artwork.
Yes.
Because we made a mural together, all of us. And it's me selfishly living in my own world and not acknowledging someone else, that I realized that there's still so much learning I need to do. Because you talked about being Black and being Indigenous. And sometimes you have to put on your Black hat. And sometimes you have to put on your Native hat.
Yeah.
Because you face discrimination in many forms.
Right.
Like you said, Black people discriminated globally. Indigenous people normally nationally, because we're not out there. And then I started thinking about you and your position, that you're Jamaican, and I don't know where your roots are, but it made me think about the original Black people that were brought here. Like they were sold and then placed here.
Yeah.
So then I was like, I need to step out of my own box sometimes and acknowledge these things. Would you like to talk about the struggle between the two? Of the struggle, or like the work?
Yeah, but I want to first start off by saying that I appreciate you having this understanding that you need to broaden your own mind in learning new things. But I want to reiterate, like what I said yesterday, was that as an Indigenous person, you are living in the now of really understanding how, as a people, we're to move forward. There isn't a lot of space outside of your own stuff to have a lot of reflection to other people. And so I want to acknowledge that. It's when we know better, we do things differently. And it's okay that you weren't in a space to have a strong understanding, because I also haven't always had a strong understanding. So I want to acknowledge that. Yeah. Around Afro-Indigeneity, yes, I'm Jamaican descent, and I am also Anishinaabe. My Jamaican family are Maroon people. They're mountain people and in Jamaica, and they're also from Nigeria, Benin regions in Africa. Sorry, your question was again like to just share a little bit about that. My ADHD is ADHDing right now.
No, it goes wherever you want to take it. It was just like I wanted to talk more about how like you're facing discrimination on both sides, but you're such a
Yes.
powerful individual.
Yeah.
And the fight's different.
Yeah, I came to a strong understanding. Again, 2020 was just a year of, that was the year that I had learned my place in being Indigenous, First Nations, and being Black. Because, like I had mentioned, that was a time when the world was being awakened to what is happening to Indigenous communities and lands and people. Was also the same time when the uproar and rising of George Floyd was happening. And so during that time, I spent all of my time being a warrior. And so having to stand up for Indigenous community and advocating, that strong advocating, because one, yes, we're supposed to speak up, but also my allyship as a Black person needs to do that work to speak up. I am very aware of how I speak, the platforms that I have to speak, and that I'm able to command people to listen. That is my hobby. I enjoy that. But then it also came to a space of when the uprising, the global visible understanding of what many Black folks go through around police brutality. George Floyd became the symbol, basically a symbol of the world understanding, whoa, this is very real. We can't really deny this anymore.
Yeah, you can't push it under the carpet anymore in your face.
Exactly. And so that was really hard as a person who's Black presenting and is seen and viewed as Black and does experience Black pain and harm. That was really hard for me to experience. And at that time, my Indigenous community was really mourning for their own reasons. And Black folks are mourning for their own reasons. And there wasn't a lot of space where folks were sharing that care because folks are in deep mourning. And what happened was a lot of Afro-Indigenous folks that I knew, we came together and we had to support each other because that's all we had. We couldn't rely on these two other sides because we recognized the mourning and we saw ourselves and we continue to see ourselves as a bridge, the filler of these two spaces, the meeting space. And that was a very difficult time because I never had a rest. We didn't get a rest. We couldn't stop mourning. And then also mourning our own thing. And that's been really difficult. And then over this last, I would say, couple of years, or maybe about a year later, this is when we started having conversations around pretendingism, which I have been violently attacked.
Accused of?
Oh, violently attacked. Doxed, beaten, uttering threats. There's this huge thing around, and I'm going to touch into pretendingism. There's a huge gap around understanding anti-Blackness within Indigenous community, especially the darker you are, the less possible for you to possibly be associated with any Indigenous nations within the Americas. And I think I can speak around Indigenous community. I think for a long time, as a Black presenting person, I've always shown up and outwardly spoke about the atrocities I would see around anti-Blackness. I never shied around it. I didn't care to. Growing up in foster care gave me this ability to understand that I can say whatever the fuck I want, and no one can really do anything to me, right? This is the way I learned about the law and system, so I've always used that to my advantage. But during that time, like in 2021 and moving forward, you could see a lot of the anti-Blackness. There was a lot of like performance art from people around, I wouldn't call it art, performance around BLM and supporting Black Lives Matter and supporting Black bodies within Indian country. But then when it came to around pretendingism, you would see some of the worst lynchings upon Black people. The memes that I would see about degrading their skin, degrading body image, degrading how people even got here. Things would be said like, no matter where you are in the world, people will always want to kill you. And these are like Native folks saying these things.
The lateral violence was intense.
It is. It's always intense. And what's hard to navigate around those things is that Indian country is really interested in their closeness to whiteness, their proximity to whiteness. And I recognize that also within Black community as well, that the closer to whiteness means that there's less you'll be affected, or less that you'll have to endure, or it's a substantial understanding of you've made it, or like a status.
Assimilated, essentially.
Exactly.
Like you fit in, you're more palatable for the white world.
Exactly.
So it's easier for you to walk in the world.
100%.
But the darker you are, struggles.
Like I have to acknowledge my light skin privilege, right? Because what I say to people is more palatable than a person who's dark skin toned, right? So I find that within Indigenous community, folks are not willing to have the conversation with each other, because folks who do really support Black culture, Black people, Black living, nobody wants to fight with their family. It's very one-sided in how we show up for community. And I find that if their folks are supportive of Black folks, and I'm not speaking for everyone, I'm just speaking in my experience and how I see people navigating around Blackness. I see that a lot of it would be around nepotism. Like, I like this Black person. Yeah. So I will support and care and do all the things that they're doing, but that person and the racism will come out. The microaggressions will come out, you know. That stuff can be really difficult to navigate.
Especially if you see it and you recognize it.
Yeah.
Because, like, why are you treating me differently?
It's the gaslighting. Yeah. I didn't do that. I didn't say that. I wouldn't do that. But I'm like, I'm telling you that you did. I'm giving the example of what you did, and you're saying I didn't, and you're being defensive. I don't need you to be defensive about my experience. I don't need you to be in your feelings about what I'm explaining to you. And then the biggest thing I say to folks is that, okay, maybe you don't like me. Fine. Yeah. But there are other Afro-Indigenous folks out there that you do need to put some respect on. I'm an individual. Yeah. Right? I can handle my own stuff.
Yeah, some people don't understand the microaggressions when you point it out. They're like, oh, that's not what I meant. But it was a subconscious act that you did that is harming a marginalized person.
But the thing is, they do get it, because if it's Indigenous based, you're going to pick up on it. You're going to know. Yeah. Because you're Native, you're Inuk, or you're a Métis, you know when someone's throwing a microaggression at you. So we can't say that they don't know. No.
I was thinking more of like a white person towards them.
Yeah. Yeah. No, thank you for explaining that. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for clarifying that. But those two things exist at the same time.
Oh, they totally do. Yeah. And as well, but yes, a Native person towards a Black person. We understand microaggressions. We know what we're doing. Because we see it happening to us all the time.
Of course.
But to my mind, it's too bad that you have to experience this part, because I talk with a lot of people, and maybe because I have done that, I always treat people of color in a certain way, because I've been through discrimination, I've been through racism, and I've seen the effects of media targeting people. Yes. So when I see another person of color, my guard goes down, because I feel like we deserve to have a level of community between each other. Yeah,
that's that compassion piece that you were saying about me and how I pour out care. You see me pour out care and love towards people, because I get it.
Yeah. You've experienced it firsthand.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And now you have your medicines.
I do. It's good medicines.
Thank you for sharing that part. I know it's such a deep subject. Yeah. But it's conversations that need to be had. Because I feel some people are probably going to listen to this and they're going to be like, I'm Native and I don't treat people this way. But then you're saying with things, in my experience, I have experienced that. Yeah. I'm not saying that's with everyone. But if chances are, if you're doing it with me,
you might be doing it with somebody else. Right?
Exactly.
And then also, like, to add on to that, I recognize, and I mentioned that I'm a brunt bearer of a lot of things. I will be one of the first people to say something. I will be the loudest person to say something. If I didn't talk about it at all at this gathering, would you have asked me to come and talk about it?
No.
Exactly. So I have to, it's my responsibility that I speak about that, because there are other Afro-Indigenous folks inside that room. Some that look like me.
To block you off, not block you off, I was intimidated by you when I first met you.
You're my badass Black ass.
Exactly. This beautiful person walking around with medicines. I was intimidated. I saw them doing a thing. And then when you had that talk at the end, I was like, oh, she has heart, she has soul. Aww. And that's what made me feel safe to come up to you, because I saw a softer side of you.
I'm not going to lie. You intimidate me too, with your cute ass just sitting there in your ponytail, just like this. And I'm like, does this bitch even see me? Am I in the room? Here's some medicine.
That's what I was taking it. Yeah, I just saw you as this extremely powerful woman. And then
thank you.
I was intimidated.
Isn't that interesting how we both were intimidated by each other? Yeah. I don't feel threatened by you or anything, but just like nervous. Yeah. Like, how do I say hi? Yeah. Okay, I'm glad that we're communicating now.
Yeah, exactly. We got it out now.
Wow. The way we perceive things, huh?
Literally. Every time you'd say something, I'd look back in the room when you do your little native, yo. I'd be like,
Yeah.
you'd be like, I want to get to know her.
Oh, I'm excited for our journey.
Perfect. So am I. But yeah, like these conversations had to happen. And you were right. If you didn't have that conversation, being that loud person in the room would have came up to you. And you're right. Like I probably wouldn't. One, scared because I was intimidated.
Yeah.
Two,
that's real.
Because you are a very powerful presence. And then I tell people this all the time as well. Like I also have a loud voice. I will gladly stand in front of you and fight the fight and tell you're ready to come beside me. But I always tell them they have to stand beside me. It's like you can't always be behind there. We're in a moment right now where we're doing culture wars. There's fights against natives, fights against blacks. We need to all have a unified front.
Yeah.
And I was like, you can't stand behind me forever.
No. But
I still probably be louder than you, but you need to come up.
Yeah, like share space. Let's walk together. Like I'll support you. You want to talk loud? I got you. I'm gonna rub your back and I thank you on. You need me to put it. Okay, I'm gonna get in.
Yeah, I'm there
totally.
with you.
I wanted to add into that, and I shared this quite a bit over the weekend. I am a very insecure person. I know that I come across confident. I'm confident in the things that I know. Yeah. I'm confident in my roles and responsibilities when I'm supposed to put myself on or do those things. But I do those things because I need those things too. We do these things, we show up in these ways, we having these conversations. You're doing this podcast because there are things that we need for our own selves. There's things that we want to explore, but it's scary. It can be hard. And sometimes we need the encouragement of other people. We need to show up in other people. We need the affirmation to be able to continue doing these things, that I'm doing the right thing. But I'm hella insecure. And that's years of me just really trying to move through trauma. But I do know that when the time is right, I have to show up, and that medicine that I'm putting out is going to reach the necessary people. Not everyone, but the necessary people.
People that need it.
Yeah.
And that's energy you bring.
Thank you.
And I think people need to hear that even though the person puts on a good front, there's still those insecurities.
I was so nervous up there. My menopause was going. I just wanted to take off my clothes. I was just so nervous, like the anxiety and everything. Are people going to take in what I have to say? Are people even going to speak back to me? I don't know what's going to happen, but I have to convince everyone that's in that room that this is a safe space, even though I may don't feel like it most is a safe, but setting a tone, setting a standard really does go a long way.
You did make us feel safe, even though you said I was sitting like this.
You were just
watching you. And the worst part is I was right center up front.
You were.
I was right in front of your line of sight. Okay, that's my apologies then.
No,
look
we're
good.
For her. No, I think that yesterday, or the past space that we were in, was just one of the most liberating spaces. You come as you are, be as you are. No one has an expectation of how you're showing up, how you're dressing, what you say, what you don't say. That is one of the most safest spaces I've ever been. So thank you for contributing to that too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It was definitely a very warm space.
Yeah.
Like everyone was chatting with everyone. There's no judgments. It was just a two-spirit space.
Yeah.
It was beautiful. It was warm. Loved it. It was so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you plan on doing, I want to do as many of these as I can as well, like these gatherings. You're in Toronto, you said, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Is there many two-spirit the gatherings that happen there?
Oh, yeah. We have an organization out there named Two-Spirited People of the First Nations. Toot, toot. They are doing some of the biggest things in the city for community in general, but a strong focus on our Two-Spirit communities. And we had, I say we because I was recently working with them. My contract ended, but I'm in good connection with them. The ED was also out here. But they have the annual Two-Spirit Powwow. It's the biggest one that's happening in the country. It gets bigger and bigger every year. Nice. Like we have AIDS, HIV prevention program services. Like our population is big. It's big in Toronto.
It's a big city.
Yeah.
A big metropolitan area with all the other
The big smoke.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So we call it the Big Smoke. It's the meeting place where all the nations come to gather. We just light a big fire. So it's the Big Smoke.
The Big Smoke.
Yeah.
Love that. I'm going to have to check that out.
Yeah.
I just reminded me of something when we're talking about community. I was talking with someone earlier today on the podcast, and they have a black husband and said that he's a Taurus. Every time we asked him to do something, he wouldn't do
Taurus?
it. Yeah, he wouldn't
Me
do
too.
it. It's just a no. Anyways, he convinced him to come to this Métis Christmas party because he's Métis. And then he said his husband, as soon as he got there, They were welcoming. They had all this food. The aunties were berating them for being late.
Yeah.
And he was like, this reminds me of home.
Yeah.
And it reminded me when you talked about how there's similarities between our cultures.
Yeah, like we're always fucking late.
Yeah.
I'm running on Black and Caribbean time. I'm actually
Exactly.
late.
And then the aunties will be there, be like, why weren't you here?
Yes.
Or if you leave, you always have to leave with food.
Yeah. Of course, like that, it's family is soul, right? Like it's energy, it's how we move through life.
Yeah.
We're not that different. We just have different practices
Yeah.
with certain things, but even those aren't really all that different. No.
When it comes down to the sense of family, it's the same.
Yes.
And that's one thing we need to step outside of this Euro-Christian nuclear family white world is that we try to make them all individual families.
Yeah.
And there's no sense of community. Like you don't know who your neighbors are anymore.
No, we don't.
Yeah.
And like the auntie-uncle, gunkle system it extends in both of our community, in both of those communities, both of my communities.
Yeah.
And and like, I said yesterday that it's really important that we recognize that one, as individuals, our numbers are small across the nation. Add those numbers together, we're still very small.
Yeah.
But we're so powerful together.
Yes. Sense of unity that we can bring.
We need each other. We need each other. And I would love for both of my peoples to really understand that we need each other. Like there is no room for divisiveness or ignorance towards each other. We have some shit to do. We have so much joy to live in with each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that needs to be expressed more.
Yes.
And I feel like it isn't. I can't speak on the part of Blackness for yourself, but with Indigeneity, for the longest time, the media coverage or the media representation was a very negative view on Indigeneity, and it didn't show the native joy.
Yeah.
And I feel now with like social media, with certain accounts, they're showing joy. The resurgence of powwows, the fact that so many people thought that powwows were only for natives.
Yeah.
And we're like, no, that's community based.
It's a gathering.
It's a gathering. Come in. And then they finally get to see the dancing and the joy and the laughter.
We have to, there needs to be space. Like we touched on it briefly about like gatekeeping within our communities. And I believe like gatekeeping, I think that's like for like really exclusive things, like very like private things, like around ceremony or family things or like, yeah, but also there's space to bring people in that we trust and care about, to welcome them in. And I had talked about, as a person with mixed descent, like, am I only supposed to bring a quarter or 3/4 of my body into the sweat lodge and leave my Black and like Ukrainian ass outside there? No. And if I have a family member, and I do have family members on my Black side who have wanted to come to a sweat lodge ceremony, am I supposed to say to them, no, you can't because you Black, motherfucker? Like,
Yeah, exactly.
this is not your ceremony?
Sorry,
like,
not for you.
No, like there's an intention in care and reciprocity with self, with the people, with the land, with all the leggeds and the wings and the swimmers and the crawlers, right? That's what I keep hearing in all of the ceremony is how are we connecting with the things? And we are all just so displaced. I think there is less harm in us understanding what feels very healthy ethically in our bodies, what we have access to innately. And some of it is going to be a mixture of these things. In the end, are we living in a healthy coexistence?
Yeah.
Am I kind to you? Are we breaking bed? Do I recognize your tears? Do I have compassion with this next person? Do I know when to take space when I'm not feeling something? Like, we can do that, but that requires a reciprocal, like a reciprocity. We have to be sharing. I can't possibly know how to act around you if you don't tell me how to act around you. Yeah. I have no idea what to do with that tobacco, but I'm using it wrong. You know, teach me.
Yeah.
Tell me.
Have conversations.
And then let me figure it out.
Yeah. And it's that simple for us to have conversations. We wouldn't have been intimidated by us. But it's not. In theory, in concept, it's easy. But then we have roadblocks for talking with each other.
Well, look at us for shooting ourselves past that and just getting into it.
Literally.
Yeah. I like this.
But yeah, what you said about like the crossover culture and that we need each other. It's so true because we're in a time where we need to be together. And I feel that coming to this conference that we were just at shows that.
Yes.
It shows the need. It shows the want. It shows the ability to heal. And I hope that this conference just gets bigger and bigger.
Oh,
Granted,
absolutely.
there was like 60 to 100 people in there. I'm really bad at counting. But
I would say like throughout the 2 days, there was easily like 130-ish people that walked through the spaces.
Yeah, and that's Two-Spirit Indigenous people all across Turtle Island.
Yes.
We even had some American kin there, so it was just very beautiful to see. And then having different faces for indigeneity in that room.
Faces, shapes, sizes,
shapes,
heights,
color.
Yeah,
because we're all different. Like I said tonight when the live podcast, there's no one way to be Native. That's the story that we tell, but we need our community to be together to guide us, have these conversations.
Yes. Yeah. I think one of my most favorite things about being at any Two-Spirit gathering, it's a clear reminder of how powerful we are, that we're always at the forefront of all the works that community really needs support and care in. We're constantly pouring in that consideration and doing that work. We lead it since time immemorial, highly revered people, and still fighting to be respected. It's crazy. It's crazy in the sense that it's crazy, but also crazy how beautiful and powerful that is. Like, you won't know unless you show up there. You would never know. And we were there.
Yeah. And exactly how you said the actions that we have, because us as Two-Spirit people, I like to use that way of thinking that we're able to see both sides of the coin, all genders, all aspects of it, because we have gone through not just Indigenous or Black discrimination, but we've had homophobia, transphobia thrown in our faces. So we have that little extra lens. Little extra lens. And then when we're all in these rooms together and we're all working together, you can just see a brighter future unraveling. But then it starts with a few. We just need to get it out there.
I fantasize with so much love and care of seeing all non-Two-Spirit, indigiqueer, Indigenous folks that are on our rainbow spectrum, that I'm trying to say. So many letters these days, I'm trying to keep up. But anyway, just like our non-rainbowed folks in the community, they would be so proud. They could learn so much from us.
So much.
The ceremony that we have just being in space. We don't need all the grandfathers to be there. We are the grandfathers, the grandmothers. And
then the amount of elders that were there this time.
Listen, we're spoiled. We're so spoiled. Some of them performed too.
Yes. Just on the whim.
It's epic.
Throw on my song and did for the past 40 years.
Oh my gosh. I really dream for our larger community to really be able to have access to this ceremony, that they can feel safe enough to be themselves and come into that space to learn and grow with us, from us, by us.
And that will happen.
Absolutely.
As long as we learn more decolonial things to do and we can build within ourselves, so it's going to grow. Where our powwows won't be segregated. It'll just be one big one that is non-gendered.
Just show up in the ceremony. Spirit knows what it needs. That's what your regalia is there for. It's going to support you to do whatever, but you don't even need the regalia to do that. Just get up and move with the drum. If you can't move your body inside your head, someone else is going to be dancing for you. Just show up and be present and be proud that, like, wow, all of these people came here to be in this space. Can we just be happy about that?
Yeah, literally.
Wow, our population is growing. Wow, look at that being. They're bigger now. Look at them dancing. Look at them. Look at them.
Look at them, exactly.
See them.
Acknowledge them, see them.
See them, see
and
you.
all these people that at this conference are going to have these teachings that we all shared this weekend, or this few days, and they're going to bring it home. Which is the joy of it.
I'm honored to be that.
Yeah, I'm honored that you were able to teach me a few things. so weird. I'm honored to be able to sit while you did your medicine talk, because I found it so empowering. And I hopefully more people had that. We are all done for the day. I know, like, we could talk forever. Like, I just want to know more. I'll say it again, even though you told me about your insecurities, you are such a powerful individual, and I'm so grateful that you took the time to sit with me today to have this talk. If anyone wants to find out what Nenookaasi's doing, their Instagram is something Hummingbird.
At Nenookaasi, so at Nenookaasi. That's my personal. If you're interested in my burlesque, slide into my DMs and I'll hook you up through there, because that's a whole handle that I can't handle.
It's a different one.
It is.
We'll also be tagging her Instagram down below for you to find her, but she's amazing. Sorry, I keep saying her.
Yeah, she, they, them,
She,
bitch,
they, them,
fucker,
bitch.
whatever.
This fucker will be done down below.
I'll be fucking her someday. So.
Fuck around, find out, right? All right, you found out how to find Nenookaasi. Once again, thank you so much for being here with us at such a good time. For people, if you want to find out more, please follow along, comment, subscribe. We're going to have so much more cool people. I don't know if as cool as Nenookaasi, but...
No, there's some cool people out there.
Yeah,
We share spots.
I feel like next time we're in the same space, we need to have another conversation because there's so much more to you.
Thank you.
And you're so stunning.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you all. Bye.